All right, so I'll probably keep adding new attendees as they come along, so keep an eye on that as well. But just to start at the kickoff, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Welcome to our first spotlight session with SheSpeaks Payments. We're beyond excited, really, myself and Lizette. So my name is Gosia, and obviously Lizette is here as well. My a partner in crime. Both actually started SheSpeaks Payments only a couple of months ago. So we're really delighted to have this group here today and for this community. What I want to quickly say is that this session is being recorded at the moment. So in case you don't want to be on camera, you're free to turn off the video. We won't be offended. So absolutely, this is supposed to be a friendly, nice conversation. And we just quickly to tell you, SheSpeaks Payments was created between myself and Lizette as a sort of conversation that we had. And we thought that there is definitely a space to create something and share with others. So we really connected. We were in the same industry and supported each other and helped each other out with our experiences, which I really appreciate. And we said, you know what, let others benefit from it. Let's just try to connect with people, help each other out, and create this kind of relaxed atmosphere conversations. And today we're so delighted to welcome Viktoria Soltesz as our actually first speaker. So this is really, really special because obviously Viktoria brings such a depth of experience across payments and banking and regulation. So we're really delighted to have you here, Viktoria. Thank you so much for your time. Before we kick off, I'll just quickly tell you what the more or less plan is today. So really, we just want to have a conversation with Viktoria about her experiences and shed a bit of a spotlight on her. And Viktoria will just share her perspective, but also I'm going to ask her a couple of questions regarding her experience so we can sort of have a bit of a conversation. And at the end, we want to leave a bit of time for you all to ask a question if you wish, or maybe discuss a point that you would like to bring up or share your own perspective. I think that's very important for us that this session is interactive, that we connect with people. But don't be afraid. If you just want to listen in, that's fine as well. No problem at all. In terms of, a little bit of housekeeping, so we are welcoming your questions. You can, put them into the chat at any point. So by the time we get to the Q&A, we can, look at those questions and go over them. Or, when we have the time for questions, please then, speak up, unmute yourself and tell us what's on your mind. One thing, we also very welcome for you to share your LinkedIn profile, if you wish, in the chat, where you can connect with each other, because we're also about trying to connect people together and help each other out and build this community. So if you are open to that, you're very welcome to share your LinkedIn profile and connect with each other as well. Also, one special announcement is that Viktoria very kindly actually shared her book with us. So everybody who's on this call today is getting a free digital copy of Viktoria's book. This is her latest book called the CPayO, the Chief Payment Officer. Viktoria, have a copy there. Brilliant, brilliant.
There you go, yeah.
First, everybody's getting a copy of that, digital copy of that. So thank you so much for participation. And there will be one person who's the most active participant today selected to get the hard copy of that book, if you wish. So that would be another little surprise as well. So now I'm really, really excited to finally introduce Viktoria Soltesz. So Viktoria comes with broad experience, 20 years of experience in payments, banking, and regulation. Viktoria is the founder of the Soltesz Institute and also PSP Angels. And she's also happened to be an author of not only one, but two books that she has on offer. There is another book as well called How the Money Moves, isn't it?
Moving Money, How Banks Think, yeah.
Thank you, Viktoria. So well done. Thank you so much. So that's really interesting and great to have you here. So Victoria, maybe let's jump in if you don't mind, and usually we start with obviously the question of how did you actually end up in payments? What was your story there? Because I think those stories differ across different people in the industry, but a lot of the times people kind of fall into that space. So we want to hear your story, but also how did you build your own expertise, in banking, payments, and regulation? And if you can tell us about your experience a little bit.
Sure. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to talk to new people about this, because I feel so strongly about payments and banking, and through my institute, obviously, the education. So I think we are doing the right thing here, talking about this to people without any kind of sales agenda, because many times we see that, fintech companies are sponsoring, or there are webinars around tools, which is also important, but we need to create a safe space where we can really talk about payments and banking honestly and in an unbiased manner. So yeah, my name is Viktoria Soltesz, and it's crazy to say that I've got more than 20 years experience. I started when I was 2, not really. But yeah, I actually started my career in Cyprus. Cyprus is a small island in the middle of the Mediterranean, and Cyprus joined the EU somewhat around 25 years ago, when the small islands usually have very good taxation benefits for all the international companies, attracting all the foreign investment. So being an accountant, I went to the island and I immediately saw the opportunity to start working as a tax advisor. And back in the day, there was no compliance, there was no, that strict regulation around payments, banking. Payments was PayPal, as if, mainly cards. So I started to work as a tax advisor, advising companies how to set up different international structures and, related bank accounts and payment providers and whatnot. But after a while, I realized that more and more of my clients started to tell me that, okay, Victoria, I understand that tax files are optimized and, everything is good. But what are we going to do with the banks and the payment providers? And how comes that now the bank starts to ask questions? Where do you want to send your own money? What happens? Where do you store the money? It's my money, my rules. Bank has nothing to do with my money. And that's when I realized that, okay, something is changing here. Because even at the university, I felt that banking and payment is something that, it happens automatically. I just open a bank account and it works. And it's free. And it sends money everywhere, and my money, my rules. But then I started to dig deeper and deeper for the benefit of my clients, to figure out what to reply to them. Obviously, I'm the accountant. They ask me, and they are expecting some advice from me. And that's when I realized that there is a whole complex environment behind that no one talks about, but everybody has a problem with, but we don't know, but we are getting different opinions. And there is this huge elephant in the room, which we are just not addressing. And accountants are suffering on their way, and compliance is happening, and the clients don't understand why they cannot accept funds or send funds. So that's when I started to really focus on, wait a minute, what is going on here? And mine, back at the day, I don't know if you remember, but that was the crypto haze, the ICOs, the different crypto tokens. Nothing was regulated. A lot of people try to outsmart the system and said that, put it through crypto because there are less banking regulation. So I come from that environment when there was this parallel setup with the banking regulation, and anytime that something bad happened, it was just actually resolved with crypto. And I'm talking about the high-risk industries. I'm talking about banking issues. Back in 2013, the whole financial system collapsed in Cyprus. Most probably you don't know about it because it was such a small part of the economy. But somehow it was something which was coming alone as a savior, but we still didn't really understand what is it saving us from, right? What's the basis of the payment and the banking system. So I actually started my consultancy around 10 years ago just to give advice to clients, like how banks think, like what is a bank, why the bank is asking for your utility bill, what do they have to do with your bank statements and fees and all those things that accountants should know about, but we don't. And at the beginning, I was working as an introducer as well. So I was making a connection between the suffering merchants. We need a payment provider, we need a bank account. And I enjoyed some commission in the middle to introduce companies to different solutions. But as the time passed by, I realized that, wait a minute, I am taking advantage of the lack of the knowledge of my clients. And at one point, I get motivated to recommend solutions which are paying me the most amount of money, but it's not necessarily the best for the client. So there was a huge conflict of interest at the middle, where I realized that, okay, even I try to do something ethically as soon as I'm hiring salespeople who are also, working for commission. This conflict of interest is just ballooning up. And there were more and more introducers. Then the gateway started to resell the gateway, started to resell the gateways. And then, this inception of payment was also an issue. There was some spiraling effect when Silicon Valley Bank went down, and that affected a lot of different other banks and payment providers. So I realized that there is a huge need on the market for some kind of independent expertise who knows a bit of payment, a bit of finance, a bit of taxation, obviously, opening and closing offshore accounts and optimizing taxes and whatnot. A bit of technology, because at the end of the day, we're all dealing with fintech, right? So the tech element is just as important. A bit of data security, a bit of everything. And I found myself that even though I am talking to finance people who were trained as finance experts, many times when I'm saying gateway, they understand a totally different concept than what I mean. Or when they are talking about open banking, maybe they never even heard about the thing, which is, one of the basic alternative payment methods of this industry today. So then I realized that I need to focus more on putting things in perspective, making people understand.
Oh, I think unfortunately Victoria dropped. I hope she's going to be able to get back on. That's one of those technical faults that you don't expect, but can happen. I hope she can get back on. Okay.
I will contact her right now.
Will you? Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, but I just think, it's such a, just maybe give my little thought on what Victoria said so far. I really find her fascinating because when I talk to a lot of people in the payment industry, it's so interesting that everybody brings in a slightly different perspective and different angle from where they sit, depending on where they actually fit into the whole, payments chain. And so Victoria is actually bringing quite interesting perspective from the side of things. So I think that's something that I'm learning really from her right now. There's another. Oh, yes, Victoria's back. Hi, Victoria. Thank God you're back. Now you're on mute.
Okay, so sorry about that. I get a phone call and the whole thing disappeared. So back to the story. So yeah, that's when I realized that there has to be some kind of independent advisory which has a defined scope of talking about payments and banking, how the money flows through the organization, where the money comes from, how much, how often, what currency, who is holding my money, how is my money being handled, what is the security, where can I go if my money is is unavailable. Where can I go to raise a complaint? What are my responsibilities as a company? What are the responsibility of the financial institution which is holding my money? And then how the money is leaving the organization. How do I pay my vendors, my shareholders, my workers, my international payments? And that's when I realized that there are so many different elements to it. It's getting more and more complex as the fintech industry is booming, and we are coming out with innovations and the new tech and the new regulation and whatnot. But also it starts to affect the organization in a way that we don't have just a marketing department. Now we have growth. We don't just have an HR department. We've got people. In the same way, we don't have just the finance department. We've got a bloodline of the organization, which is the payments and the banking, which affects every area of the organization, including, as we said, the risk, the data security, the technology, the compliance, the marketing, the sales, that everything. So there has to be some kind of defined scope which understands all of it and makes decisions knowing that if I change something here, it's going to break something there. If I take a lower fee, maybe it's going to cost more to integrate. If I am having better terms and conditions and quicker settlement, maybe my money is not that safe. So there are so many interdependencies that we are today not talking about because we don't even define the role. We don't even recognize that payment and banking and anything which is dealing with the flow of money is outside of finance. Yes, there are some overlaps, and of course there are interdependencies there. Yes, the treasurer is doing part of it, but it's still something which we see that it should work on its own, but it never does. And somehow companies are losing millions in cost, in time, in effort, because they are firefighting instead of planning for that. So that was the moment when I realized that, okay, who can I blame for that? No one, because there is no education. You can't educate something which is not named, which we cannot point out that, yes, this is an accountant and therefore there's an accounting qualification. There is a lawyer in the company and therefore we expect that person to have a law qualification. We have a payment and banking expert who could be a finance, who could be a tech, who could be a compliance. So anyone who's putting that hat on with an undefined scope, with a lack of education, or the best we can get is self-educated. But how do we know that that education is valid, is up to date, it's relevant, and it's true? How do we decide that that person that we appoint to deal with millions of dollars on a daily basis going through the organization is basically undefined and not trained? How do we as management know that we make the right decision if the information what comes to us is completely missing or wrong or biased by whatever provider who wants to sell us a solution? So that's why I opened my institute. And
that was one of the questions, Viktoria. I think, I was kind of wondering what sort of problem you were solving with the Soltesz Institute. What was the reason for it, and what are you trying to achieve?
So yeah, basically I'm just threading it together with the journey that I had. But yeah, that was basically the whole point of like having my consultancy, which is now independent. It is like a fractional or outsourced head of payment, or as I like to call it, the chief payment officer. But also I feel that we do have a responsibility in this industry to educate people about what we know, because there are so much of an experience and understanding and knowledge in the head of professionals, the head of payment of whatever company, or the chief payment officer, or even just the treasurer of whatever company. But if we don't have a forum, a place, a safe space where we can share this information with the next generation and even with each other, this knowledge is going to die out with us. So there has to be some kind of structure, standards, code of ethics, certification, which is ruling our profession, but it starts with recognizing the problem. So this is what I'm fighting for, and that's how I ended up in payments, coming from the tax advisory background.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. That's really interesting. And obviously, I think that's probably what many of us experienced, like starting working in payments. I didn't go to school for payments. I never took any course. Of course, there is more and more, information out there, I think, and there's a lot of qualified people who start to kind of open up and share, and but I get your point about having something more standard where everybody can take a course and sort of cover the areas that maybe they're not necessarily are an expert on, because I can see like there is definitely a lot of fragmented knowledge depending on what side of payments the person is operating in. And I wanted to ask you, Victoria, about your book, the CPayO, because since we're getting a copy of it, if you can just tell us about, why a company would need a CPayO, which meaning Chief Payments Officer. Why is this role needed? And then, like, what would change if the company, let's say, had that? Obviously, I know some companies have that kind of role, like Director of Payments, but not sure how much influence that position has. That there is not a, very structured just organization that dedicated just to payments, I think.
We are seeing the transition, like how we saw it with Agile. 20 years ago, there was no product manager because we had a completely different approach to how to run an organization. Today, I see that things are more related, and we discover more and more interdependencies, that we are no longer having just a marketing function and just a separate sales function. You got, as I said, a growth, which are working together. And this is what I see in finance as well as payments. Now we can see that there is something which was originated from finance, which is the payments and our core banking as well included in that. Anything which has to do anything with moving the money or trusting providers or managing this relationship. And I called it the Chief Payment Officer because I wanted to show that there has to be a seniority involved, that the person can oversee the whole flow of funds and then make the final decision, senior enough to advise to the management that, this has to be approached in this way, or certain decisions need to be done under that person's authority. But you can call it head of payment, but you can call it anything that deals with payments and banking as of today. Maybe it's just a portion of the CFO role or the COO role, or I see it many times in smaller organizations. What I would like to do here is actually defining the role. Call it out and not merge it with anything else, because I feel like that finance people have already a lot on their plate, and many times payment experts are not even coming from finance backgrounds, right? I have seen a lot of people who came from either that they had mathematician education or a biologist or whatnot, that they just ended up in payment, self-taught, and now they are payment experts. So I wanted to call out and clarify that this is a standalone role. And in my book, I'm writing what is this role's responsibility in different, in terms of the different life cycle of a business, because a chief payment officer is different in a startup, it's different in a scale-up, and it's totally different in a huge company, a large organization. But also, what is their relationship and differentiation compared to the certain department? So how the CPayO acts in terms of finance, or in terms of product, in terms of growth, and what are their responsibilities, even in tech. So I just wanted to call out this role as it is, and I would like to really get the feedback from the market, and obviously from you guys as well, who will get a copy of the book. What is your take on this role? What would you add? What would you exclude? How would you call it differently? Because it is a very much living, breathing, changing things. And I think now, today, we have the opportunity to form this industry together and have a say in this. I think it's super important that we recognize the role and we create an industry around it, and we write the rules and the standards around it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, Victor. I think I'm sure there's a lot of those things you see yourself, because as payments people, I think sometimes it's very difficult to be understood and to get the message across to the board level, to kind of realize what the impact sometimes is of decisions that are not being made or maybe avoided. But I also wanted to kind of maybe begin a little bit into your experience of working with businesses, for example. Where do you see the businesses struggling the most today, for example, or from the businesses that you worked with, in relation to payments and banking? What's the main kind of struggle you're seeing?
Where do I even start, right? I mean, I'm sure that everybody has their own horror stories. So we're on the line. It's like a blocked account, a delayed payment, a rejected application, a confusing reconciliation, terms and conditions that we just forgot to read, or a technical integration which put the whole company on hold for 6 weeks. So everybody has their own horror stories. And this is not rocket science. So if you start to ask the right questions, it's very, very easy to identify all of those weak points. For example, if you keep more than 1 million in one bank account at any given moment, you need to ask yourself, why? Why do I take this risk? What is the benefit of having such a large amount of money in the hand of one provider? Or a very easy example, second one, how many providers do you use at the moment to process payments or trust your funds with, in terms of banking or payment provider or alternative payment methods? How does it affect you if, in case, I don't know, from Monday to Tuesday, they go down? Do you have any contingency plan? Do you have anything to fall back on? Or, for example, if the person who is making decisions over payments and banking tomorrow wins the lottery and disappears from your company, saying goodbye, I don't want to come to work tomorrow, how much does it affect you? Do you have any processes written down? How that person made the decision over different providers, over different integrations, different decisions, or even how much do you know the latest fintech innovations, or who is making decisions of taking advantage of the latest fintech innovations? Do you even know what is open banking, mobile payment, alternative payment method? Do you know what is the current market price which could be offered to you? Because if your reply is or I don't know, or maybe not, so to any of these questions, I can tell you immediately that you are at risk, which is completely unnecessary at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see Lisette has popped a question there in the chat. I might as well just read it for you, Victoria. So what is the key characteristic a payment expert or a leader should have?
I think we are no longer super expert in one subject deeply, but it goes with everything today. That's what I see. We are more of like generalists today. So the payment person has to be a bit of compliance, understand the difference between neobanks and banks and payment providers, has to be a bit of a technical person, understanding the integrations, the data security, how the technology is connecting everything. Has to be a bit of finance person, because at the end of the day, we are still making decisions on fees and budgeting and whatnot. It has to be very much so a risk person to see the big picture, that if it breaks there, how does it affect me here? It has to be a person who understands expansion, growth, to help the marketing team that, hey, don't go to whatever country because there the payment providers are giving us a life of 7%. Go to that country, because with the same amount of effort that you put on marketing, we can actually get better acquisition or getting clients easier. So it's a bit of everything, and that's why it's such a unique position. And I just don't want to, put ourselves in this magical throne that we are running the business. But actually we do, right? Because without having payments and banking providers, there's no business. The business just doesn't work. So you have to be a bit compliant as well, a bit legal, a bit of everything. But overall, you have to be able to connect the dots. And you always have to be up to date with the latest, because whatever worked yesterday is out of the window today. New rules, new regulations, new sanctions, new restrictions, new fintech products. Everything is changing all the time. Plus, your business is changing all the time. So if we are using the same bank on the same fees like 10 years ago, no one's going to drop your fees if you're not asking for it. You need to ask yourself that, why am I paying the same fees with the same provider as I started? Because that could be also a massive inefficiency.
Yes, thank you so much, Victoria. Really, and that's such a broad area. I was wondering, if someone here in the audience is kind of maybe new to payments or would like to maybe start working payments, where is the maybe best place to begin to get your expertise or try to build your expertise?
Yeah, it is still bad. It's not as bad as it was, because at least, I can see that there are more and more educational efforts being put out there. But in my opinion, it's still not enough. So you still need to rely on your own efforts and Googling skills and reading between the line kind of skills, because there is still a lot of information which only exists in hands or through experience, and it's not being taught. Now, obviously, I'm fighting against it, and I'm obviously trying to team up with all the experts in the industry to create some kind of education around the subject. But I really believe that there needs to be more and more. So if you can put your hand on independent payment and banking experts, books, webinars, snippets, conferences, speech, interviews, for example, please do, because I think the heavy lifting is still on us to self-educate ourselves, unless we have standardized education, which I'm working on. So hold on, it will happen at one point, but as of today, you still need to rely on your peers and your experience, unfortunately.
Yeah, because there is definitely there's so much expertise out there, and all those people have gained experience over the years, and so it would be nice to write down their minds and have it in some kind of standardized manner that a lot of people can access. Like we have marketing books, SEO books, whatever other area there is. I think there's still probably a lot of space in there. Victoria, can I ask you one question about like if there is someone in like a merchant in the audience, is what sort of area you think they need to really rethink today about their payment setup? If you were to pick just one, like you can give them advice, what is important for them to take away?
I think it is very important to understand that if you're a merchant and you're the one who's making decisions over providers, you're the target. And it's horrible to say, but the fintech industry is still heavily reliant on who's got the merchants, how can I sell them things? So take everything with a pinch of salt, because everybody is going to tell you that, oh, my solution is the best, but it's your responsibility to protect your company, to defend the organization and be the first line of common sense, which is saying, really, let me check this, let me read over it. So I think that there is still a bigger responsibility on us, the merchants, the chief payment officers, who are actually making decisions on different providers. But yeah, good thing and bad thing at the same time, that everything is changing all the time. So if you don't like a tool today, maybe there's something so much better coming out tomorrow through AI or innovation. So that's definitely a good thing. But the bad thing is that everything is changing all the time. So good luck to you to figure out what's the best way to optimize your flows and take advantage of the new innovations, negotiate your price lower, and then make sure that you're making the good decision. It is still a very much gut feeling kind of decision, and unfortunately it needs to be obviously put into perspective. But yeah, listen to your gut feeling, because sometimes that also leads you, we should have standards and best practices and frameworks, but yeah, the more people you talk to in the industry, the better it is. And if you can try to speak to experts in the same way as when you've got a problem, you go to the official source, you go to the doctor. Try to speak to experts because it doesn't cost a lot to have an hour consultation with an expert. It can cost a lot not to when things are going upside down.
That's very interesting, and I think the gut feeling, I really like that, because at the end of the day, obviously you can have all the data that you can, but still you need to sort of, feel that this is the right fit for your company, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you so much. I would like to actually open the floor to questions from the audience, if you will. I can see there is one actually question from Mary, and I hope I'm not missing the rest, but I will keep looking through it. So Mary asked, and Mary, thank you for the question. What are the recommended payment conferences that you recommend to attend, Viktoria?
There are a lot of interesting ones online, and it really depends on what are your areas. Because if your company is, let's say, I don't know, incorporated in the US but targeting Asia, then you need a whole different approach than a merchant who is, I don't know, incorporated in Africa and doing some business in Europe as well. So try to find the local payment events, networks, experts, because it's almost impossible to be a payment expert in every area of the globe, and that's when you can have a lot of information under the radar of things which are not even public. Hey, do that because that works for me. So payment conferences, try to stay local. If you're a merchant, the good thing is that you're going to have the red carpet rolled in front of you because everybody tries to sell you things. But that's when you have to be clever and realize that, okay, I'm the target here, but then try to get as much information as you can from providers because they can be a very valid source of information as well.
Thank you, Viktoria. So I do have questions on that because, like, as an individual, been in a payment space for 10 years, I feel like I learned a lot. I've been in a lot of merchant space, but it's still like what I noticed is like a lot of companies now are scaling back on supporting, experts to go to like conferences. We have to self-fund everything. Like, I'm fine to self-fund and as long as there's a value to learn. But one thing I'm noticing is like every company, regardless large or small, they're just scaling back in general. So this is kind of like a challenge I'm facing. All the companies I have worked for, just like scaling back. And then there's always going to be a lot of things that you need to learn in order to apply to the work. So how will you find that balance? I think that has been a big challenge. I have worked at Fortune 100, startup, mid-size. Companies are just like, they're saying, hey, I could do everything for us. So we don't need like to go to all these conferences, paying a couple $100,000 or whatever to pay for this. So it's kind of been a little bit discouraging to hear that. So just curious your thoughts and any recommendation. And I also see that someone mentioned like ShePayment will be a good option. Like I do appreciate that. That is also something why I'm here, because I have attended a lot of things and I just looking out for what is I could be more involved in locally as much as I can, because paying out of pocket is like a lot these days.
Yeah. And that's what I'm fighting for, some kind of standardized education, which has a price. That's it. You learn it. It's independent for sure. It's approved. You got it. Because I find myself as well, you can spend hundreds of thousands on different conferences, and then you don't even necessarily have the relevant information, because at the end of the day they are sponsoring the stage. Of course, it turns into a product pitch, right? So it is very, very, very hard to find out what its value out of all of this noise. But yeah, I think there are more and more like official courses. So if you're going to larger consultancy companies, at least they have some kind of online course. But yeah, I think the best if you talk to an expert, an independent expert, trying not to speak to someone who's trying to sell you something again, but have an hour or 2 hour consultancy with an expert, because that alone worth more than all of those panels and speeches and whatnot that you are traveling and spending on the hotel and whatnot. Because these experts love to talk about things like me, we just love to talk about the subject, and there are a lot of information in the experts' heads. Just you need to scratch the surface properly and get the management involved and show them that, hey guys, this is how much we might be losing. Finance, I don't know, 2% of it, send it to an expert who is fixing things, because on the long term we are saving so much more. So our job as payment expert, I think, is to show to the management that it's worth it. Invest money in it, because strategic planning is not that expensive, but firefighting when the whole company is down, yeah, you can actually lose your whole organization on that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I agree. I think that like a lot of people, especially leadership, are looking at more short term versus long term, given how like the economy, there's like a recession, there's a lot of cost cutting that in order to like look into right now versus long term. So it's just very interesting, and that's why I'm trying to find avenues where I could like build out and go into more consultancy at this point, given that a lot of companies are just not focusing on the right work to really improve.
Yes.
And a lot of time is like, well, you block this prepaid card, you will save this, but then you're losing subscriber and revenue. So it's constant trade-off, and it's really looking for like, I really want to solve more impactful work versus just another trade-off issue. Like it's depending on the size of the company at the end of the day. So I would love to you deeper, or anyone else in this group that has that connection, and really think through like how can you keep solving for bigger important work, given that now a lot of companies are just focusing on not that anymore. It's kind of been in a frustrating point. Like I've been in the industry for 10 years, just figuring out, do I keep doing what I'm doing, just the same problem over and over, or working on problems that actually more sophisticated that you can actually rack your brain on? And I just want to step into that point at this point in my career.
Yeah, and it's super hard, and it's really up to the management, because it's the same thing that, okay, I've got a pain in my belly. Do I make myself a tea for like $2, or going to the professional who is doing all the checks on me and figures out that what is wrong with me? Obviously, the right way is to go to the doctor, right? But the management might need to prove it. So you really need to see that what's the management goal as well, because maybe they are just there for the exit. Survive for 2 years, and after that, I don't care. Like, obviously, that management needs to be convinced in a different way. Whether, okay, this is my granddad made this company, and I pass it on to my, the next generations. Those companies might actually invest a bit more on the long-term things. But yeah, it's up to the management that what do they want to spend on.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge. Finding the right management to see the value in payment and fraud and chargeback has been such a pain in this pain point in this career point.
I think we share your pain, Mary, and I just think that it's probably everybody kind of experienced this, but I just think that, and it's my personal opinion, but I think Viktoria would agree that I feel it's only my gut feeling, okay, that really payments is going to become the department in most of the companies, because in the end of the day, every single company is using payments. They have to move the money, and every single company, and most of the companies these days also operate online as well. So I really think that that's just a missing puzzle that will become. So Mary, it's not that I'm here to persuade you to stay in the industry, but I really think there is a lot of work to do. And I think, if we maybe we can contribute to that and keep educating, keep promoting this area and keep educating. I think that, that's definitely, there's a lot of potential there. I think because we know, all of us here in the room, we know how much value is in this.
Oh, I definitely agree. Like, payment is not going anywhere. It's just a matter of finding the right place and time that will really value it. And that is the challenge, given how like economy and AI has definitely affected that mindset in a lot of C-suite right now. They're all just thinking about cost saving and using AI for everything. But over time, this is just riding it out for the next year or two. Like, okay, AI doesn't solve all the problem that you guys said 2 years ago. Now you need to hire everyone back and going through all the pain points. So yeah, I agree. And I love the learning here. I would love to participate in more like these conversation and get that enjoyment, because it's like, it's only folks that will understand this industry. I have no background in payment until like, I only have finance background. So pivoting 10 years ago was like, this is a game changer, and I love it. So I just want to continue that momentum, but just finding the right folks to like talk to will be super helpful.
I think you were doing that in here, and I value your background and where you're sharing the story, because I feel it related. Like, for me to convince my management to go to the MRC and to share what the value is, just to even finding other peers and talking about it. It's like, it took a long time. And I have to say, the merchant actually invited me and another person from that company that I used to work, and without that incentive, I would not be in any of these conversations with other peers at that time because I was so isolated as a payment expert because I didn't know all the areas at that time. I was exposed to more not the technical side, but the business side because of challenges too. But it's always going to be so. At this point, I can tell you, management don't appreciate payments as a motor, as an engine, as a revenue movement, and that's going to take a time. That's going to take a time of educating them, and that's the challenge because people at those levels would say, oh, I don't need to know maybe a deep knowledge of payments. Like I have conversation this past week. It's like, you come here, you tell us what to do, but I don't really need to know. And it's like, interesting. It's like, that's the challenge. And eventually, like Gosia said, I think they will have to take it and understand it. But unfortunately, I feel like it's going to take a little bit more time.
I resonate with that. That's all. They were like, I hire you to figure it out. I don't need to know too much. Within 6 months, figure out everything. And I'm like, 6 months to figure out everything that's broken for 15 years.
It's only
What
3
about your
months.
research? Yeah. So someone told me that, payment is being like a policeman. When everything works, you don't see. And that's how you know it works, because then you just don't see that. If you start seeing the problems coming up, then you know that, okay, somebody's not doing their job. But I think the best clients for us as well are the ones who already burn themselves. A couple of closed accounts, couple of delayed payments, overpaying here, there. Those are the best ones who are like, okay, I need you. And that's when you can actually work well with the management. But if they just don't mind spending money just because we don't see it, and then don't rock the boat because the shareholders are already happy, you can't even do anything there, let alone payment, but you can't change anything for legal, for AI, then, those are the companies who are slowly going to die out in AI, I think.
Yeah, so definitely there's a big mission, right, amongst us to sort of, keep going. Don't leave the industry, Mary, yet.
No. I mean, it's just figuring out what's the next step as an individual who's very passionate and been in the industry for a bit of time, like how you could navigate as things keep pivoting. And then I'm a constant learner, but it's also like how and where and like all these MRC, unless the company's sponsored and you get into it, but you can't, as an individual, I cannot sign up for it, which is kind of disappointing. So I'm looking for groups that allow me to sign up as an individual, which I'm willing to pay as long as there's value, but it just feels so contradicting sometimes when these are meant for individual like us, but then they end up being the company. But I get the reason, because sponsor or a vendor pays the fees and everything, so totally understand that.
Yeah, well, we're working on it.
Brilliant. I can see there's a couple more questions. We still have some time, Victoria, so maybe we can look at them here in the chat. So Joshua, thank you for your question there, Joshua, about crypto. Victoria.
Okay.
How has crypto changed the payment and banking industry? And why has big merchants like Shopify not adopted crypto as a payment method?
Right. So crypto was the one who promised us the moon and the sky and everything is going to change and your money, your rules. But unfortunately, we realized that there is a financial system with regulation for a reason, right? Because people don't like to pay their taxes unless they are forced to pay their taxes. People don't like to declare things unless they are, there's a regulator and the policeman who is checking what they are doing. And that's what we have seen with crypto. Crypto is an amazing technology, and there could be so many things built on it, but people, I think, mainly at the beginning forgot that there are regulations for a reason. So if we let the market and the supply and the demand decide who is paying to who and how the money moves, there are going to be bad actors who are taking advantage of that. And that's what we have seen: the pump and dump schemes, the Ponzi schemes, the fake tokenization, the fake ICOs. We have seen all the classic scams in the book. And I think now that we have more and more regulation around crypto, that's when banks are a bit more open, larger companies are a bit, okay, what's going on? Let's integrate that. But at the end of the day, what I see now is crypto turning into, okay, I'm very much bastardizing it, but that's the main thing I'm trying to say, is that crypto is turning into like another currency now, which is of course going through different rails, which is, faster and cheaper and technologically more efficient, and of course we're living in 2026, so it has to be technology involved, but the underlying reason should be the same. We cannot just have something which is decentralized without any maintenance, because then people are going to take advantage of that. And I've had a lot of clients, for example, DAOs, decentralized autonomous authorizations. Like, it's a banking nightmare. Like, who is going to jail in case something goes wrong? And if you can't pinpoint the person who's taking responsibility, it is very hard to build a whole financial system around it. But that's just my personal take on crypto. Right now, we see that the stable coins are taking over, and then we are coming up with better rails in banking, which was much needed. So on that, I applaud, but it still need to be handled, regulated, stored, used as traditional currency. Otherwise, the bad actors are going to take advantage of it.
Thank you, Victoria. There is one more question here, if you don't mind. You mentioned that payments are from Andrea. Andrea, thank you for your question. You mentioned that payments are a complex balancing act. How have you seen companies balance competing strategies and pick which metrics to optimize for?
Obviously, everybody wants to optimize for costs, right? But it's our responsibility to show them that, yes, if you are just focusing on cost, then you might actually pay so much more in the long term in terms of customer experience, technology, whatever, data security, regulation, and whatnot. So I think it is a very, very very complex system, because as I said at the beginning, you change something here and it breaks there, right? We are changing it to a cheaper provider who is regulated in a country I've never even heard of. The risk person is having obviously hissy fit, oh my God, where do we keep the money? And the finance person is great. I hit my KPIs because I reduce the cost. So there has to be some kind of understanding, and there has to be some KPIs which are affecting the organization as a whole, right? There has to be a person who says that, okay, we are saving here on the cost, but we are risking more on risk, and the user experience is going to be affected as well. Many times, for example, companies are spending hundreds of thousands of optimizing the website and the checkout experience. They integrate a payment provider, which is purple, blue, and having a completely different experience at the end. And they are surprised why the clients are falling out just before payments. So that has to be also included in the planning. The whole customer journey, the whole payment flow, and everything that payments and banking affect has to be put into consideration to be able to make the optimum decision. And yes, it might be about paying a little bit more, but in order to save so much more in other aspects. So it is a balancing act. There is no good answer, in the same way as, when you're going to the doctor and you're taking this vitamin, then, you might, suffer on something else. You have to just find what works for you, for your company. And also, because everything is changing all the time, what is the best for you as of today, and adjust it according to the new innovations, regulations, restrictions, new volume, new players in the market, new tools, AI innovation. So it is hard. The good thing that you can't make a bad decision, because as long as you're doing something, you're already doing more than the majority of the companies. But overall, it is very hard, because it's a very slippery slope. Payments and banking, you can actually just bankrupt your whole company with one bad decision, and it's super important that you know what you're doing.
That's great, Viktoria. Thank you so much. It's really so amazing. I have one closing question, if you will. What is one key message you would like our listeners today to take away from this session? One key message from you.
It doesn't cost a lot to plan and ask for a help of an expert, and think upfront. But it can cost a lot to firefight, because I have seen that can actually, as I said, bankrupt the whole organization. So try to think about the what if scenarios. Try to put things in perspective. I've got actually on my website a framework that I'm using. It's very easy to implement, 8-step framework. You're checking who are the key personnel, where the money comes from, different terms and conditions, the taxes. So ask all those basic questions. And if you have any doubt, there you go. That's your vulnerability, which can bite you in the butt at any minute. So concentrate on that. It's not a bad idea to talk to an expert, an independent expert, even just a couple of hours, just a little bit, just to scratch their the surface of their knowledge, because it can be very expensive to say, oh, I should have, could have, would have, and then you're in the middle of the trouble.
I think that's a great advice, Victoria. I really like it, and it could really save a lot of companies a lot of trouble later down the line. So yeah, I think we're gonna slowly, we're coming to an end. I really appreciate. Thank you so much, Victoria. It was absolutely so valuable. So many interesting points, and we appreciate it so much. And thank you to everybody for joining. I have a couple of more next steps that I quickly want to share. Is that first of all, we're going to share the book with you by email. Is that okay? But Victoria kindly actually offered the second book as well, right? So you can pick whichever you prefer. So there's 2 books. We will send you an email, and you can tell us which one you prefer, and we'll send you a digital copy. And the winner will be contacted with the offer of the hard copy as well. And also one more thing, we're going to send you a quick email. We are actually collaborating with a startup here in Ireland. They provide software to record feedback. So for example, we send you the link, and you can record your feedback for 60 seconds, what you think about the session, what was good, what was bad, what would you change, do you have any recommendations? If you will, there's absolutely no, you don't have to do it, but if you wish, it would be lovely for us to hear your feedback and see how we can improve things. But also it would be great for those guys, and they are called Quiet Signals. They're only a new startup. There's two guys, one of this very good friend of mine, sharing and doing really great thing, great software. So I really want to support them. And it would be great to test it out for them, see if it works, and if we can gather some feedback, would be really lovely. Other than that, we will be sharing more about we are definitely, doing more sessions. There is another session in the US tomorrow, the US time zone tomorrow with Sarah Bomber. So that would be a very interesting one as well. Or maybe, we might try to record as well. So hopefully if you can't attend in person, be sure to listen to the recording when we share. Anything else? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you everyone for joining today. It's very special to support each other, and we're here openly. These sessions will continue to be free and open. But one really, it's like point, it's please let us know if you want to be the next person also for being a highlight session. We would like to give this as a platform and space to everyone. Share with your friends, with your colleagues, to anyone who is starting, whoever it's senior level, anyone is welcome here. And for those 2 questions that I see in the message, maybe just ping Victoria. This is a place like, knowing each other, and continue with those conversations.
Please do. Don't be a stranger. So please share your troubles, opinion, recommendation, because that's the only way that we can form this industry to a better way, to a better one. So we can talk about it. And yeah, please reach out.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And thank you, everybody. We will be in touch. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.